It's strange, isn't it? How a single message, a single tone in someone's voice can flip your whole energy in seconds. You wake up steady, centered, and then one glance at your phone, silence where you hoped for a reply or a notification that stings, and suddenly you're spiraling. It feels unfair that your internal world can be hijacked so easily by what's happening outside you. You tell yourself to stay positive, but that phrase feels hollow when your chest tightens and your mind starts scanning for danger. You've tried to shift your mood before, the affirmations, the deep breaths, the music, but it often feels like pretending, like putting a bright filter over chaos. You might even wonder, how can I really shift my energy when it's not just a thought, when it's my whole nervous system reacting? Here's the truth. Your energy doesn't change because circumstances change. It changes when you change your signal, the vibration your body and attention are sending into the field right now. Think of it like a tuning fork. Whatever frequency you hum, reality hums back. And when you don't know you're humming at all, the world feels random and out of your control. But there's a hidden moment, a microscopic pause between reaction and awareness. And in that space, if you know what to do, you can shift everything. You can go from spiraling to centered, from contraction to flow, without forcing a single thing outside you to move. That's what this is about. Learning to regulate your internal frequency so reality reorganizes around you, not the other way around. Because the real mastery isn't control, it's coherence, the art of coming back to your true signal, no matter what's happening around you. Picture this. You're a tuning fork standing in a room full of other tuning forks. The moment you start vibrating at a certain note, the ones resonating with that same frequency begin to hum too. You don't force them. You don't shout at them. You simply become the signal, and everything that matches your tone responds automatically. That's how your energy works. Your body is an electromagnetic field, not just metaphorically, but biologically. Your heart emits measurable frequencies, your brain generates waves, your cells literally communicate through resonance. Every emotion, every thought, every breath sends a pattern into that field. When you're centered, your pattern is coherent, smooth, rhythmic, aligned. When you're anxious, defensive, or gripping for control, your signal scatters. You're still broadcasting, but now it's static. Most people try to shift their energy by changing what's outside, trying to fix the situation, rewrite the text, prove their worth, escape the discomfort. But the observer effect, a principle from quantum physics, shows that observation itself influences outcome. The more you observe your state with presence, the more your system reorganizes. The problem is, most of us observe through judgment. We don't see energy. We label it, I shouldn't feel this. Why am I still triggered? And those judgments keep the vibration locked in place. So, the first mechanism is awareness without resistance. It's not ignoring what's happening. It's tuning to your internal broadcast long enough to feel what frequency you're currently sending. Because you can't shift what you won't sense. Imagine holding two tuning forks. One represents the version of you that's calm, creative, magnetic. The other represents the version that's reactive and tense. You can't get rid of the tense one, but when you sound the calm one, the tension starts to vibrate in harmony. That's coherence. Your energy shifts the instant your nervous system feels safe enough to drop the defense. The signal recalibrates automatically. You don't make the light flicker back on, you simply remove the interference. And here's where most people get it wrong. They try to force their vibration higher while still gripping fear underneath. That's not shifting energy. That's masking static. Because the real question isn't, how do I feel better? It's, can I allow what's here until it reorganizes itself? And that's where the myth begins to crumble. The myth of control that keeps us stuck in loops. Because what if the fastest way to shift your energy isn't to fight your state at all, but to stop believing it's who you are? Here's the biggest myth we've been sold about energy, that you have to get rid of the negative to become positive. That emotional heaviness means something's wrong with you. That alignment equals perfection. But that belief is exactly what scrambles your frequency. Because every time you try to reject what you're feeling, you amplify it. Think about it like feedback on a microphone. The sound isn't coming from the singer anymore. It's looping between the mic and the speaker, building on itself until it screeches. That's what happens when you try to escape your emotion instead of observing it. You feed the distortion. Let's make this real. Imagine you're waiting for a reply from someone you care about. Hours pass. You see them online, but the message doesn't come. Your stomach tightens. Your mind starts rehearsing stories. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? You feel that wave of anxiety rising, and instinctively you try to calm down, maybe distract yourself, maybe affirm, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. But beneath that, your body doesn't believe you. The energy still hums with lack, with worry, with the old pattern that says silence equals rejection. So instead of trying to overpower that vibration, what if you tuned into it, really tuned in, like you were listening to a note you'd never heard before? When you do that, something wild happens. Awareness breaks the feedback loop. You stop feeding the distortion with resistance and the signal begins to clear. The anxiety doesn't vanish instantly. It reorganizes. The tightness softens. The breath deepens. The body recognizes, I'm safe enough to feel this. And here's where most people miss the moment. They think shifting energy means flipping a switch from negative to positive. But true coherence isn't polarity. It's integration. Your energy field becomes clear when it stops fighting itself. In that text message silence, you realize the power isn't in whether they reply. It's in whether your signal collapses into fear or expands into neutrality. Because neutrality isn't numbness, it's magnetic calm. From that state, the field reorganizes. Conversations shift. Timing aligns. You don't chase. Reality begins to hum with you. You were never meant to fix your energy like a broken machine. You were meant to tune it, like an instrument learning to harmonize with what's real. And once you see that, the next truth hits harder, because it reveals why no technique works until your nervous system feels safe. Here's the piece that changes everything. Your energy can't rise higher than your nervous system's sense of safety. You can visualize, affirm, meditate all day, but if your body still feels like it's under threat, it will override every intention you set. The body always wins. Your nervous system is the bridge between thought and frequency. It's the translator of vibration. When it's regulated, your signal is smooth, rhythmic, magnetic. When it's dysregulated, when you're stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, the field around you starts to wobble. You can feel it. Your chest tightens, breath shortens, thoughts race, and suddenly it's not just emotion, it's a full-body transmission of fear. That's why coherence isn't just mental clarity, it's physiological harmony. It's your brain, heart, and gut syncing up like instruments in a single orchestra. When they're in rhythm, your frequency stabilizes, and the world mirrors that back. So before you try to shift your vibration, you must teach your body what safety feels like. And the simplest way is through direct sensory awareness. Not a thought, not a story, just the body's language. Try this right now. Wherever you are, slow your breath, not by controlling it, but by letting it lengthen on its own. Feel the weight of your body against the surface beneath you. Let your shoulders drop just 1 inch. Sense your heartbeat, even faintly. Notice that no danger is present in this moment. You're breathing, alive, held by gravity itself. Now imagine that with each exhale, your field smooths, like ripples settling on water after a stone's thrown. Your heart becomes the metronome. Your brain waves follow. Your breath begins to pulse in rhythm with something larger, the background hum of existence. That's coherence. When your nervous system recognizes safety, it automatically releases stored tension. You don't have to command it. The system knows how to self-correct. This is why embodiment matters more than effort. Because the signal that creates your life isn't sent by your thoughts alone. It's transmitted by your entire physiology. The paradox? Safety doesn't come after the shift. Safety is the shift. Once your body stops bracing against life, energy flows again. The tuning fork vibrates cleanly. The field responds, and that's when the next layer reveals itself, the one most people never reach, where your energy is no longer about mood, but about identity. Most people try to get into a better state. They chase calm, confidence, clarity, as if those are moods they can hold on to. But energy doesn't stabilize through states. It stabilizes through identity. A state is temporary. It fluctuates with sleep, hormones, weather, messages, and memories. Identity, however, is the underlying frequency that determines which states even feel natural to you. It's the note your life keeps returning to, no matter the song that's playing. Think about it like this. You can step into a meditation and feel peaceful for a few minutes. But if your identity is still wired as someone who's trying to be peaceful, your field hums with striving. The moment life pokes you, the old vibration of effort, of control, takes over. Because your tuning fork is still struck by the frequency of who you believe yourself to be. When you shift identity, everything downstream changes automatically. Your emotions, choices, posture, tone, even timing begin to match the new signal. That's why deep transformation feels effortless once it's embodied. You're no longer fighting to maintain a vibration. You are the vibration. Let's make that concrete. Imagine someone who constantly identifies as anxious. Even if they practice grounding, their nervous system is unconsciously scanning for proof that anxiety is still true. Every sensation of tension reaffirms the identity. But if that same person begins to experience themselves as the one who notices energy and rebalances, their body receives a new instruction. The system reorganizes. The signal shifts from panic to power without suppressing anything. It's subtle, but life-changing. You stop trying to manage your state and begin inhabiting the self that doesn't need management. So the question becomes, who are you when you're not reacting? What's the frequency of your natural self before the world trained you to contract? When you start to remember that identity, the one who moves from coherence, you stop taking life personally. The field stops testing you and starts reflecting you. You don't manipulate energy, you express it. And that's the moment where timelines start to bend. Because the identity you inhabit decides which version of reality you magnetize next. And when you understand how identity selects timelines, you realize you were never changing your energy to attract things. You were tuning to the version of you that already lives them. Every version of you already exists, not as fantasy, but as frequency. Each carries its own tone, its own emotional landscape, its own timeline of events that unfold naturally from that vibration. When you shift identity, you don't force a new future. You tune into the timeline where that identity already lives. Think of your reality like a radio dial. Every possible experience is a station already broadcasting. Fear plays one song, peace plays another. Abundance, creativity, confidence, all have their own frequencies. When you twist the dial, you don't create the song. You simply join it. The field rearranges itself according to what you're tuned to. Here's where it gets practical. Picture this. You're sitting in your car before a big job interview. You can feel the static, the self-doubt, the pulse in your chest, the thought, what if I mess this up? That's one frequency, one timeline. The outcome from that state is predictable. Nervous energy, shaky answers, misaligned results. But imagine that in that moment you pause and remember. There's another version of you on another station who's already landed this job. They're not trying to impress. They're expressing alignment. You close your eyes, breathe, and ask, what does that version of me feel in their body right now? Maybe it's groundedness in your spine. Maybe it's a relaxed jaw. Maybe it's the quiet knowing that you're equal to the opportunity. As you embody that signal, not as fantasy, but as a felt frequency, the timeline begins to shift. You start receiving different thoughts, different impulses. You walk into the room differently. You listen instead of proving. That's the tuning fork principle in motion. The outer scene reorganizes around the identity you're transmitting. It's not magic. It's physics meeting consciousness. Most people live bouncing between stations, broadcasting anxiety for a few minutes, then willpower, then doubt again. But mastery comes when you hold your dial steady, even as life throws static. Because the longer you maintain coherence, the more the field conforms to your signal. That's the real meaning of alignment. Not waiting for life to show evidence before you feel the vibration, but becoming the evidence yourself. And once you glimpse how powerful this is, you realize you can't just understand this intellectually. You have to train it into your system until it becomes instinct, until your body knows how to rehearse coherence without thought. That's where the real tools come in. The daily tuning rituals that teach your energy to remember itself. You can't think your way into a new vibration. You have to rehearse it until it feels like home. The field doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what your nervous system believes is familiar. So the work isn't in forcing change. It's in practicing coherence until your body forgets how to fragment. Let's build that muscle. Here's a simple toolkit. 4 daily practices that help your energy remember its true tone. 1. Bridge statements. When you're stuck in a low frequency, affirmations that feel fake only create more resistance. Instead, use bridge statements, gentle transitions between frequencies. For example, instead of, I am abundant, try, I'm learning what stability feels like in my body. Instead of, everything is perfect, try, I'm beginning to notice moments of peace between the noise. Bridge statements speak the language of the nervous system. Believable, progressive, soothing. 2. Somatic anchors. Choose a physical cue that your body associates with regulation. Touching your heart, exhaling with sound, pressing your feet into the floor. Every time you do it intentionally while calm, you're wiring your nervous system to recognize that signal as safety. Then, when stress hits, that anchor becomes your shortcut back to coherence. 3. The frequency journal. Once a day, instead of listing what you want, write down what frequency you practiced today. Ask, what was I broadcasting? Did my body feel open or defended? Over time, you'll start seeing patterns between your internal tone and your external experiences. You'll stop chasing results and start fine-tuning resonance. 4. Embodiment rehearsal. Close your eyes and imagine the version of you living the reality you desire. Don't visualize the scene. Feel the physiology. How does their breath flow? What pace do they move at? What's their resting facial expression? Let your body mimic it until the signal feels natural. When you open your eyes, bring one aspect of that frequency into motion, even how you stand or pour water. That's the bridge between timelines. These aren't rituals for control. They're training for familiarity. You're teaching your energy that coherence isn't special, it's safe. And when safety feels familiar, expansion becomes automatic. Have you noticed that the moment you stop gripping, what you wanted finally shows up? Tell me your story in the comments. It might unlock someone else's leap, because what you're about to see is that even with these tools, 3 traps keep most people looping: urgency, split signals, and over-control. And once you can spot them, you'll never spiral the same way again. Even when you start tuning your energy with awareness, 3 invisible traps can pull you back into static: urgency, split signals, and over-control. They're subtle, disguised as doing the work, but they're really echoes of fear trying to manage reality. First, urgency. Urgency is the vibration of not yet. It's what happens when you try to rush your coherence, when you meditate to get somewhere, when you breathe to fix yourself. That energy says, I'm not safe until this changes. But the field only mirrors what you are now. Urgency keeps you tuned to absence. The antidote isn't slowing down, it's softening the grip on time. When you feel urgency rise, say internally, nothing's missing in this moment. Breathe as if you already arrived, because from the field's perspective, you have. Second, split signals. Split signals happen when your mind says yes, but your body says no. You declare abundance, but your stomach tightens when you check your account. You speak confidence, but your shoulders curl inwards. Energy follows embodiment, not language. The way out is alignment through honesty. Instead of forcing a yes, acknowledge the no. Feel it fully without judgment. The moment your awareness meets the contraction, coherence begins. The split dissolves not by suppression, but by inclusion. Third, over-control. This is the most seductive one, believing you can micromanage the universe. You start reading every sign, trying to manifest faster, wondering if your thoughts ruined everything. That's not alignment. That's tension dressed as spirituality. Over-control is the fear of surrender. It's the nervous system clinging to certainty because it doesn't yet trust its resonance. But when you control, you narrow your frequency. You lose the creative bandwidth that allows synchronicity. The remedy is release through presence. Remind yourself, the signal doesn't need supervision. Your vibration is self-correcting the moment you relax interference. Think of a river. It doesn't plan its path. It finds coherence by flowing. Here's the paradox. The less you manage, the clearer your field becomes. Because energy doesn't obey command, it mirrors coherence. Once you see these traps, you start catching yourself mid-pattern. The moment urgency rises, the split hums, or the control grips. And that awareness alone collapses the old vibration. You return to rhythm. And it's in the rhythm of ordinary life, washing dishes, walking outside, eating, talking, that coherence stops being a practice and becomes your default frequency. Because daily life isn't a distraction from your energy work, it's the training ground for it. Here's where it all starts to click. Energy work isn't something you do in meditation. It's how you move through life. Your signal isn't built in stillness. It's stabilized in motion. Every ordinary moment is a chance to broadcast coherence or static. Let's start simple. When you walk, notice your rhythm. Most people rush, bodies leaning slightly forward, chasing time. That posture hums with lack, the frequency of not there yet. Try walking as the version of you who's already aligned. Slow your steps, roll through your feet, breathe as if gravity itself supports you. That's an embodied signal of safety. Watch how people respond differently when you move like that. You'll feel the tuning fork effect ripple through reality. When you eat, you're not just consuming food, you're taking in vibration. Chew slowly. Let taste register. Gratitude isn't a mental exercise. It's a frequency that reorganizes the body. The calmer your energy while eating, the more efficiently your system digests, not only food, but emotion, thought, and experience. When you speak, tune your tone. Words carry more than meaning. They carry vibration. Notice whether you're trying to convince or connect. The former contracts, the latter harmonizes. Speak from your chest, not your jaw. From coherence, not defense. People may not understand why, but they'll feel safer around you. When you scroll online, that's another mirror. Do you tighten, compare, judge? Or do you use that moment to practice neutrality, to stay anchored in your own signal regardless of external noise? That's spiritual mastery disguised as screen time. Integration means no moment is wasted. Every reaction becomes data. What station am I tuned to right now? You stop taking triggers personally and start reading them as feedback, not punishment, but calibration. And over time, this daily coherence rewires your baseline. The field around you becomes smoother, your interactions simpler, your timing uncanny. You realize that energy work isn't about control. It's about continuity, holding your frequency steady even when life tests its edges. That's how the extraordinary begins showing up in the ordinary. A conversation that flows better, an opportunity that seems to appear by chance, a sense of being carried instead of pushing. Because integration doesn't make you invincible, it makes you tuned. And once you live from that steady hum, something else begins to happen. The field expands beyond you. Coherence stops being personal and starts influencing everything it touches. And that's where the true expansion begins. Once coherence becomes your baseline, the energy doesn't just transform you, it transforms everything connected to you. Because frequency is relational. The field you emit interacts with every system you touch. Your relationships, your creativity, your health, your sense of purpose. It starts small, like ripples. You notice that certain conversations feel lighter. The tension you used to meet with defense now melts through listening. Your calm becomes contagious. You're no longer mirroring people's moods, they're mirroring yours. That's resonance in action. You don't need to convince anyone to change. You become the dominant frequency in the room. In relationships, coherence creates safety. When your system stays regulated, others' systems naturally attune. Arguments dissolve faster because you're not fighting to be right. You're vibrating in truth. Love stops being a tug of war and becomes an energetic exchange where both people expand. In creativity, coherence opens the channel. When you stop gripping outcomes, inspiration flows through like current through a clear wire. You're not trying to be creative, you're receiving. Ideas arrive fully formed, timing feels guided, and effort becomes play. Artists call it flow, physicists call it coherence. It's the same field expressing differently. In health, the effects run deeper than thought. The heart and brain's alignment regulates the immune system, hormones, and even gene expression. When your vibration steadies, the body stops wasting energy on defense. Healing becomes a byproduct of harmony. And then there's purpose. The more coherent your energy, the clearer your direction. You stop chasing meaning and start emanating it. Purpose isn't something you find, it's the frequency you emit when you live in truth. Let's ground this in a third scenario. Picture a creative block. You're staring at a blank page. Nothing flows. You start pushing, judging, scrolling for inspiration. That's the static of over-control. So you pause, feel your body, drop into your breath. You ask, what station would the version of me who's already in flow be tuned to right now? Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's play. You breathe it in, your shoulders release, and words begin to move again. That's coherence expanding creativity. This isn't imagination or it's entrainment. The same principle that syncs heart cells in a lab applies to consciousness. Frequencies harmonize. And when you realize that your coherence naturally uplifts everything it touches, that your calm is medicine, your joy a signal, something deeper starts stirring. A recognition that you're not generating energy at all. You're participating in something vast, intelligent, and alive. The field itself is conscious, and coherence is how it speaks through you. At a certain point, you stop feeling like the one doing the work, and start sensing that something larger has been guiding the entire process. The effort to shift your energy dissolves, and what's left is pure participation in the field. You realize coherence isn't personal achievement, it's alignment with an intelligence that's always been there, waiting for your signal to match its rhythm. That's the spiritual dimension of energy work. Not mystical, but intimate. It's the moment you recognize that consciousness itself is relational, that awareness and creation are two sides of the same pulse. You're not commanding reality, you're collaborating with it. Think about the tuning fork again. When you hum at a certain frequency, it doesn't struggle to make sound. It vibrates because the air itself wants to carry the tone. Life works the same way. When your vibration aligns with truth, the universe doesn't resist you. It harmonizes with you. This is where surrender becomes the most powerful act. Because surrender isn't giving up, it's tuning in. It's dropping the illusion that you're the conductor and realizing you're one of the instruments in a vast symphony. You're played by something far wiser than the mind. Call it source, the field, God, consciousness, or coherence itself. In this space, paradoxes resolve. Effort becomes ease. Desire becomes direction. Even challenges become orchestral cues, not punishments, but prompts for retuning. You start to see how every contraction in your life was a call to harmonize, every delay an invitation to anchor deeper presence. And then a quiet realization lands. The universe was never testing you. It was matching you. The law of attraction becomes less about asking and receiving, and more about remembering and allowing. The moment you align with what's true, emotionally, somatically, spiritually, reality organizes itself around that truth. Synchronicities, timing, opportunities, even healing appear, not because you forced them, but because coherence is magnetic by nature. There's a humility that comes with that. You no longer need to prove your worth or fight for your path. You sense that the same intelligence orchestrating galaxies is breathing through your body, guiding every pulse. You start living from reverence instead of resistance. And this reverence shifts everything, because once you know the field is alive, every thought becomes a whisper, every action a note, every heartbeat a signal back to the source that's been listening all along. And in that realization, you reach the final layer, the return home to your true frequency, where coherence, creation, and consciousness merge into one seamless hum. It always comes back to the tuning fork. The moment you remember your own tone, life begins to reorganize itself. You stop chasing alignment and start emanating it. The world doesn't shift because you fought harder. It shifts because you stopped vibrating in contradiction with yourself. That's the real meaning of instant energy shift. It's not about erasing emotion or bypassing pain. It's about returning to coherence faster, remembering that nothing outside you determines your frequency unless you hand it the dial. When you live this way, every moment becomes feedback, not failure. You can feel when your signal drifts, in the tension in your jaw, the heaviness in your chest, the impulse to control. And instead of spiraling, you smile, you breathe, you retune. That's mastery disguised as gentleness. And the magic of coherence is that it doesn't stop with you. When you stabilize your signal, your world stabilizes. Conversations soften, timing aligns. Even challenges lose their edge because you're no longer fighting the current, you're swimming with it. Maybe that's all spiritual growth really is, remembering your original rhythm and letting life move through you again. So, if you're wondering how to shift your energy no matter what's happening around you, don't wait for conditions to change. Feel your breath, ground into your body, and ask, what frequency am I transmitting right now? Then choose, not with thought but with presence, to hum at the tone that feels like truth. Because the moment you do, the field listens. It always has. And if this landed for you, if you've ever felt that quiet moment when your whole body exhaled and everything started aligning again, tell me below. Your story might be the signal that helps someone else remember their own.